Inside the Serapeum, you have 25 of these things, which are these single-piece, like 100-ton granite boxes.
In 1850, a French explorer discovered something underground in Egypt that remains a mystery to this day. 24 huge granite boxes, each as heavy as 15 full-grown elephants, were sitting in tunnels so narrow that you would struggle to get two people stand side by side. For decades, scientists believed these boxes were built with copper tools to bury sacred bulls in ancient times. But when the boxes were examined using modern technology, researchers found they were so precisely cut and polished that even today's machines would struggle to replicate them. So, who were they made for? And how could such incredible work have been done so long ago? Let's get into it. The hidden boxes. In 1850, workers digging at Saqqara uncovered a long system of tunnels carved deep into solid rock. The passages were narrow, low, and silent. They were dark places, never meant for crowds or ceremonies. Everything about them suggested careful planning and a serious purpose. Inside them, explorers found something no one expected. Massive granite boxes were lined up inside stone chambers, placed one by one as if each had been carefully planned. In total, there were 24 boxes. Each one was carved from a single block of granite, not from stacked stones or joined pieces. Some were fully sealed with heavy lids, while others were left unfinished, as if the work had suddenly stopped. The scale of these boxes was hard to ignore. Each one weighed between 70 and 100 tons, and the lids alone weigh more than many modern vehicles. Yet the boxes fit into their chambers with almost no extra space around them. In some tunnels, the walls sit only inches away from the granite, leaving barely enough room to walk. Historians say these boxes were made to bury sacred Apis bulls, animals believed to carry divine meaning. Still, the amount of work feels extreme. These were not simple stone coffins. The surfaces were smoothed inside and out, and the boxes were placed deep underground, where no one would ever see them again. So a quiet question begins to form. If burial was the goal, why was such care, weight, and precision needed? And once that question is asked, another follows close behind, one that becomes impossible to ignore when we think about the size of the stone itself. How could these massive stone blocks have been moved through tunnels that were so incredibly narrow? The transportation problem. That question about movement does not fade. It grows heavier once the stone's size is understood. Each granite box weighed between 70 and 100 tons, and that weight came after the stone had already been cut and shaped. Before any carving, the original blocks were even heavier, likely weighing over 200 tons each. The granite did not come from nearby. Many boxes were made from stone found in the eastern desert of Egypt, hundreds of kilometers away, across rough terrain with no rivers to guide transport. Other boxes came from Aswan, about 500 miles south. While the Nile connects Aswan to Saqqara, moving a single block of this size on wooden boats poses serious problems, especially in an era without engines or metal cranes. Historians suggest that workers dragged the stone on wooden sledges, using wet sand to help it slide. This method worked for smaller stones, and there is proof that it was used in other projects. But these granite blocks were much larger and heavier than anything normally moved this way. Even today, teams would avoid driving a single stone of this size if smaller pieces could be used instead. What makes the problem clearer is what lies underground. One box was left unfinished in the center of a tunnel, and there is no space around it for large teams to push or pull. The tunnel itself is barely wider than the box, leaving no room for ropes, sledges, or hundreds of workers. So the mystery deepens. If the boxes were this hard to move above ground, then moving them underground becomes even harder to explain. And once you step into those tight tunnels, another strange detail begins to stand out: the perfect corners. That idea leads to a closer look at the boxes themselves, because their shape tells a story that weight alone cannot explain. When engineers began to measure the boxes, they noticed something strange almost right away. The corners meet at clean right angles, and the walls stay straight and even from one end to the other. These are not rough stone cuts. Tests show that the inner walls stay parallel over long distances, with differences so slight they are measured in tiny parts of an inch. Even today, this kind of accuracy takes careful tools, steady power, and a lot of control. Granite is a very hard stone. It is much harder than limestone, which the Egyptians used for many other buildings. Cutting granite usually needs diamond blades or intense drills. In ancient times, workers mainly had copper tools and sand. These tools can shape stone, but very slowly, and they wear down fast when used on granite. What adds to the mystery is the condition of the box's insides. The inner surfaces are smooth and polished, almost like glass, even though they were sealed and hidden underground. This means the work was done carefully, not quickly. The inner corners are sharp too, which shows the stone was hollowed out without cracking it. Hitting granite too hard would cause fractures, but these boxes show no deep cracks or damage. Scraping out the inside by hand would take an enormous amount of time and effort. So, why would anyone go to this level of effort for something that was never meant to be seen? That question starts to point away from simple burial and toward a different kind of purpose. One that becomes clearer when we think about the material itself. The purpose of granite. That thought about purpose brings the focus to the material itself, because granite was not an easy or natural choice for simple burial. Granite is very dense and does not let air pass through it easily. When a granite lid is placed tightly on a granite box, the space inside becomes almost fully sealed. Granite also contains quartz crystals. This matters because quartz reacts to pressure. When pressure is applied, it can create a small electric charge. This effect is real and is used today in simple things like watches and sensors. It only happens when weight or stress is added. Some researchers noticed that the lids of these boxes weigh about 30 tons each. Old 19th century drawings even show additional stones stacked on top of some lids. That added weight would increase pressure inside the box. For a burial, this makes little sense. For a sealed chamber, it begins to look more planned. Also, the tunnels show very little soot or burn marks. This suggests that open-fire torches were not used for extended periods underground. That does not prove anything by itself, but it adds to the mystery of how people worked and saw in such dark spaces. This idea does not claim answers. It only shows that the boxes act more like controlled chambers than simple coffins. And once that idea settles in, attention naturally turns to the people behind the work. Because building something like this would require knowledge that feels far from ordinary. The lost builders. That gap in the story brings everything back to one final question. Because the boxes themselves do not match the people usually credited with building them. The stonework is exact, yet the markings found on some boxes are rough and uneven. This difference matters. Skilled builders do not suddenly lose their ability when carving names or symbols. Only a few boxes have these carvings. Many are completely smooth, as if they were never meant to be marked. This suggests the carvings may have been added later by people who did not make the boxes but found them already in place. If that is true, then dating the boxes using these markings becomes unreliable. There are no clear records that explain how the boxes were made. No tools were found that could shape granite this way. No drawings show the process. Even today, engineers admit that copying these boxes from a single solid block of granite would be extremely difficult and costly. So what are we left with? We see massive boxes made from hard stone, moved across great distances, shaped with extreme accuracy, sealed tightly, and hidden underground. The effort behind them feels far greater than what is needed for a simple burial. This does not mean we have all the answers. It means the story is incomplete. The boxes remain where they were left, silent and unchanged, reminding us that parts of human history may still be missing, waiting to be understood. So, what do you think is the real purpose behind these granite boxes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, ensure you give it a thumbs up. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, because we will be uploading more crazy stories like this one in the coming weeks. Until then, see ya.